Hello. I wanted to go over the Transversals in a City project with you. First off, you're going to need a poster board, or something it's just bigger than an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. You're going to need some colored pencils or crayons, and you're going to need a ruler because we've got to make sure that we create straight lines. What you're going to do is you're going to create a street map of a fictional city, okay, which you're going to come up with the name of. The city must consist of the following. It has to have 6 streets that are parallel to each other. Okay, make sure that you reference each street. So that means you have to name it. Okay, and you can put the name down the center of it. That's fine. You need to have 2 transversal streets which intersect the above streets. They have to have names as well, and the transversals should not be parallel to one another. And I'll show you that in just a second. You have to have stop signs or traffic lights at 4 different intersections. Okay, so if you got multiple intersections, more than 4, then you are cool with just leaving those as blank, but you need to have some traffic lights or stop signs at 4 of them. And then the following buildings must be represented in your city. You need to have a bank, a post office, a school, a gas station, a football stadium, a library, a park, a restaurant, a grocery store, a hospital, your house, and a pet store. And each building and street must be labeled and be school appropriate. And buildings could have symbols to show what they are as well. For example, hospital, right? Could have an H or something. You have to place buildings at certain intersections of the street to show your understanding of the different angles formed by transversals. Therefore, you need to place your buildings at these locations, which I'm going to go over with you real quick. One thing before I do that, down here, to get extra credit, you want to be very, very, very creative. So these are good. And I like these, but these are super creative, like using Legos or creating a 3D model. That is awesome. Giving a legend, everything. That's really awesome. So this is like going above and beyond, which will give you an extra 10% on this. So it means like if you get 100, then you have 110, which will go towards your test grades that kind of go on from here. So that will help you a lot, okay? It'll put you at like that 100, okay? Make sure as you're doing this project that you're checking the rubric to make sure that you've done everything correctly so that you can get the most points possible. All right, so here's what you're trying to do, okay? Here's an example of what you're going to see. So if you look right here, what you see is, now you don't have to do it like this. This is just a sample. Your parallel lines can go however you want them to, but here are 6 parallel roads, okay? So I have 6 parallel roads, and then I have 2 transversal lines, and the 2 transversal roads are intersecting the 6 parallel roads. And notice that the 2 transversal lines are not parallel to each other, okay? And there's a reason for that. And so this is an example of how your city could be laid out. I would like for these pieces right here to be gone, okay? I would like for you to erase that because obviously there's no road right there. Okay, it kind of intersects all right there, so I would like all of this stuff kind of gone, okay, in between, so that you can see those intersections perfectly, okay? So I would get rid of those things. But what I wanted to talk about was where to place things. And so it says your house and the pet store have to be at congruent, alternate interior angles. So that means they have to be congruent. That means you're looking for parallel lines, okay? So your house and the pet store. So here are 2 parallel lines, okay? Now there's a bunch, but here are 2 parallel lines that are cut by a transversal. So one place that I could put my house and the pet store, like I could put my house in the pet store, I'm going to put it right here, I'm going to do this. I could put my house right here, okay? So I could put my house right there. And then I could put the pet store right here because these are congruent to one another, okay? So there's a house and the pet store. And they're congruent because you have parallel lines that are cut by a transversal. But there's a lot of different places that you can place that house and pet store. But that's just one of them. All right, let me show you another place where you can do some things. It says the football stadium and the library need to go at same side interior. So they don't have to be congruent, right? And they're not. The same side interior or not. So let me just say I want to put my football stadium right here. And the library we'll put right here. And so these 2 are same side interior because they're between 2 lines that are cut by a transversal, okay? So that's an example of how you could do that. Let's look at the next one. congruent alternate exterior. Now there's a bunch of those as well, but you got to think about just looking at two specific lines. So for them to be congruent, there has to be some angles, right? So there has to be two parallel lines. So let's just look at these two parallel lines right here real quick. So let's look at this one and this one. And here's the transversal. Alternate exterior would be right here and right here. So what you could do is you could put them on that place. So we're going to put the bank and the post office. So here's the post office, right? I'm just going to call it PO. And the bank. Now you need to draw pictures, right? All I'm doing is trying to show you how to do this in terms of where you need to place things. Now these are alternate exterior and they're the same measurement, so they're congruent to each other. Okay. Now we need to look at getting into the non-congruent in just a second. Let's look at the vertical. Hospital and a grocery store at vertical angles. All right, so there's vertical angles everywhere, but here's a pair right here. Here's a grocery store. If I put the grocery store here and then the hospital, okay, I'm going to put HO for hospital. HOS, hospital. Okay, so these are vertical angles, right? And there's a bunch of them. I mean, you could put them here, right? There's a ton of vertical angles, and so you can place them wherever you want to. All right, now, the non-congruent. For them to be non-congruent, that means they got to be intersected by non-parallel lines. So let's check it out. The gas station and the restaurant at non-congruent alternate. All right, gas station and restaurant. All right, so here are two lines that are not parallel, right? My two transversal lines, okay? So let's go down here. My two transversal lines are right here, okay? And it's cut by like this line. Let's look at this particular line right here. Actually, let's look at this line. This will help us. So here's a line. Here's my transversal. It's cutting. Alternate interior would be like right here and right here. Now those two are not the same measurement, and the reason why is because these two lines are not the same. Okay, they're not. I mean, they're not parallel. They're not the same. They're just not parallel. And so my restaurant could go up here. Okay. And my gas station could go right here. Okay, because those two are not the same. All right. Now we also have alternate exterior. Okay, and we need to look at those. The school and the park have to go at non-congruent alternate exterior. Same thing. You got to look at, like, this is a good spot. Here's an alternate exterior, and here's an alternate exterior. Those two measurements are not the same because these two lines are not parallel. Okay, and so I'm going to put the park, I believe is what I said, and the school. Wait, maybe not. Let me look real quick. It is going to be the park and the school. Yep, the park and the school. So park, so I'm going to say park, PA, and school. X. And so those are now at non-congruent alternate exterior. Okay. Now you don't have to lay it out like this, and that's not how I want it. I don't want it to look exactly the way I just did it here. The idea is just to show you where these angles have to go so that you get that correct. Okay. Now, I don't want to see letters like this. I want to see some pictures of buildings. I want to see some good stuff, okay? And everything needs to be colored. So the roads need to have names on them, right? And everything needs to be colored. But this is just an idea to show you kind of where everything needs to go. Again, if you got any questions, just let me know.